Hey everybody, this is Tom Salemi, Device Talks. Welcome back to the most recent episode of Device Talks Tuesdays. That's today's episode. Wait, thank you for joining us. I love these kind of conversations where we sort of take a forward look at medical devices. I think we're always doing that, but sometimes they seem more forward than the others. And in this case, this topic, cloud native medical devices, a game-changing architecture, brought to you by BioT, I think will be really thought-provoking and compelling and ultimately help you do a better job with your devices. So I'd like to thank BioT for putting this presentation together. And of course, thank you all for attending today. A few quick things. This is obviously a virtual event, which means we can do it again and again and again. So it's available on demand at devicetalks.com. So if you know of a colleague or a friend who didn't register before the start time, that's okay. They can register at any time and watch at their leisure. They can even even ask questions, and BioT will be able to get those questions. They'll have access to the resource widget, just as you do, which gives them the PowerPoints and other materials. So please do let your friends and family and colleagues know that they can watch this episode of Device Talks Tuesdays if it's important to them. Q&A, we'll be taking questions. We ask you to ask your questions throughout. We'll address them all toward the end, but as I always say, it's best if you just ask them as they come to mind, and that just sort of gives us a better sense of pacing and how many questions we have. Once again, and I'll repeat this at the end, if we're not able to get to every question that is submitted, they will all go to BioT and they'll be able to respond after the presentation. But our goal is to get to each and every one of them as they in this episode. So please ask away. And of course, if you're using social media, we love you to use hashtag Device Talks Tuesdays to make sure we see that content. So very quickly, we are meeting in person, Device Talks Boston, May 10th and 11th. That is at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. So go to devicetalks.com for more information about that. And while you're there, check out our many, many podcasts. We're going to be expanding this slide pretty soon, but we've got our Device Talks Weekly podcast, Stryker Talks, Intuitive Talks, Medtronic Talks, and we'll be adding Boston Scientific Talks in just a couple of weeks. Okay, with my pitch over, I'd like to again thanks BioT for joining us and introduce our guest or our presenter, Guy Vinograd. He's the CTO and co-founder of BioT Medical. Guy, thanks for joining us. I'm sorry, Guy.
Hey, Tom.
I'm sorry, Guy. Guy, thanks for joining us. I don't know why I switched to French. Great start, Tom.
Most of the people call me Guy. Yeah. Anyway, hi everybody. Thank you for participating today. A bit of background on myself. I'm a software developer. Been doing this for almost all my life. Where around 10 years ago, even more, I started focusing on clouds and IoT. And soon after, I got excited for what can be done when you connect a medical device to cloud. And the rest is history.
That's great. It's a timely bit of history as well, and that this is really we seem to be at a moment where the cloud is becoming increasingly important with medical devices. You're talking about home-based diagnostics, talking about diagnostics in the bathroom, cameras that can detect blood in the stool. We need more highly home-based, highly powerful sort of viral diagnostics, and I know there's talks about implants that can replace diagnostic procedures. So I think we're going to walk through a lot of that today. So why don't we just kick it off, shall we? So as I said, remote care is the future of medicine. But what are the new challenges that medical device manufacturers will face in the world of home care?
Okay, so
on the right side? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
Here we go. That one? There we go. Home care.
Here we go. Yeah. So firstly, when you go to home care, you go to scale. Home use means millions of users, millions of devices, where the users are usually, elderly people. Mostly, even if they are not elderly, are unprofessionals, of course, not healthcare professionals, and whose insurance cannot afford pay too much about devices when they scale to millions. That means that at the same time, the device must cost less. It should also be foolproof, which means usually being far more developed, rounded, robust. Secondly, usually patients who get a home use device are chronic patients, and this means that they may be using the device for over a decade, hopefully, and this brings a huge challenge of maintenance. In hospital settings, manufacturers usually send their own personnel or invest in training people, hospital professionals, to maintain those devices. There's no way manufacturers will send personnel to the homes of, to the millions of homes of patients. So this means that the existing devices are very problematic to use. So first thing that must happen, since you're not in a hospital settings, is that the form factor must be different, and the device itself must be different. The two devices you see here are both fetal monitors with actually the exact same functionality. Of course, this left one is the clinic version, and it's clearly complex and meant for professional users, and it costs a few tens of thousands of dollars. And this right one here is the same fetal monitor, but now it's a home use monitor whose operator is clearly an expecting mom. Wow. And this one is manufactured by one of Biotis customers, and this one is simple, affordable, and if it weren't simple and affordable, it could not fit for home use. And it doesn't stop at the form factor. Home care means more than that. It means more use cases to support this remote connection of the patient and the doctor, and across all the life cycle of the device. So you need in this such a system. It's not only this hardware device; it's a system now. You need features to maintain and improve patient outcomes, like remote patient monitoring, alert management, and of course, if the patient is using the device, you have to think about adherence, that the patient will use it on time and in the right way. Another group of new use cases is to take advantage that the manufacturer now has, for the first time ever, a direct access to the user, direct to consumer, and taking advantage of that is by engaging the user. So prompt questionnaires are needed. You need to provide a way for patients to report adverse events. And of course, there are other engagement forms that can be used to put the brand of the manufacturer in front of the patient for the first time. And thus, of course, in this home use scenario, there are also aspects of business that need to be taken care of. First is everything around getting paid and the RPM reimbursement codes of, and for those codes to get applied, you need to meter the use of the device. Some would like to install remote licenses. Some others would like to do additional remote maintenance to the device, getting back to the point of how you maintain remotely. So while if I go back, while you need this small form factor, it's not just hardware minimization. You should also increase the amount of functionality of this device and system.
So, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Could you just move a little closer to the microphone, Guy? To your there you go.
Oh, you didn't hear me right? Now
no, we heard
better?
you fine. Just make it a little bit better. That's all. Just want to make sure. Well, we heard every word though. So, I mean, it seems like connecting the devices to a cloud, it's a given, it's inevitable. But more than a simple connection is needed to sort of open up the full possibilities of home care. So what evolution do medical devices need to undergo to make them best suited for home care? What do engineers and others need to do on their side?
Okay. So the short answer is that medical devices need to become distributed. From this first evolution to connected care, where you usually took an existing device and just retrofitted it to connect to the cloud, so clinicians can become remote and doesn't have to look at the screen of the device because they have now a web screen for that. Now this approach is not working because of all the challenges I mentioned around the price. So distributed means that you need to create now a new device actually with a new architecture, an architecture of a device that is cloud native or born to the cloud, and leveraging architectures like cloud microservices, which all analyze incoming raw data from the device and doing actually an extension of the definition of what a device is. It is now more than a machine. It is now a set of evolving capabilities, like evolving algorithms that you can add more and more as time goes by to get and provide more insights for the raw data that's coming from the device. You can do with this raw data more collaborations with other parties who may have other algorithms that can benefit from the device. And of course, other workflows for clinicians, alarms and alerts modules, and etc. So much faster evolution can be done, and collaboration with additional partners, algorithm providers, for example, is also much easier to do. Just to give you some more, I would say, like a summary of the roles. So the device now becomes mainly a sensor that interacts with the patient body, or an actuator, of course, and then it sends and receives, mainly sends actually, raw data from the sensors from the device to the cloud, where the cloud is doing all the rest of the functionality, the classic functionality of a medical device. It starts with governing whether the device can be activated and the user can be authenticated, goes to all the algorithms and signal processing of that raw data, goes to storing all the artifacts, as well as the raw data itself. This is very important for future algorithms that you would like to develop, and for those future algorithms, you would need like years of data. Of course, the cloud is also responsible for the analytics to understand what those biomarkers mean, alerts, the adherence optimization, of course, managing the fleet of devices, of course, all the cybersecurity that was a problem of the hardware device itself, because the device was also very smart. Now, when the device is sending raw data, usually there is very little to do with, waveforms or all those raw data bits. So cybersecurity now is mainly on the cloud, which is a huge benefit because it's more control. It's in a controlled environment, and every time someone tries to hack, you can detect that hack, unlike if they try to just take a device to the lab and just disassemble it without you as a manufacturer knowing about that. And of course, all the collaboration with ecosystem, instead of the old way of a partner providing you their IP, their algorithm that you put on your motherboard, which is quite risky and companies don't like to do that. Now the collaboration is done cloud to cloud, and of course, integrated workflows with other ecosystem softwares like EHR, CTCs, QMSs, etc. To give some more knowledge about the benefits, here is a summary of that. First, this architecture meets those challenges that we mentioned earlier. It clearly provides a huge cost reduction. The device that only includes sensors is, of course, much cheaper, and in the cloud, you pay only for what you use. So definitely a lot less. Also, of course, things like operating system licenses, everything is gone when the device is so simple. Similarly, things like maintenance. Now you maintain software here. You don't go and need to maintain the device so much. That also saves a lot of time on maintenance. And now we are talking also about new benefits beyond even those changes that this architecture was meant to solve. First, capabilities are not restricted by processing. That means that when you're in the cloud, you have like an infinite CPU. This means that you can bring algorithms that were previously considered too complicated because they consume too much CPU, and you don't want a strong CPU, especially in a model where you need to pay for the strong CPU in advance and you don't know how much it will get used. When you only pay for the time this algorithm runs, it makes much more sense to run those algorithms. And of course, the better algorithms, more accurate algorithms means improve patient outcomes. Business models. With that control of all the medical device, it's very easy to introduce new ones. You don't have to now sell just, capital sale of the hardware. Now it's very intuitive, even because your device is based on the cloud, that you will apply and you will get paid, for example, by pay per usage, pay per operation, pay per any injection if it's a drug delivery device, or subscription, or virtually any business model that you can do. And last, the benefit of collaboration is huge. Let me give you an example. One of Biotis' customer is a device that is placed in the toilet and looks downwards, and on the stool, and it sends a high-resolution image to Biotis, where the algorithm of the customer is executing, and it detects blood-in-stool. So this is a wonderful solution, and it converts something that is a diagnostic test that you do like once in a year or maybe in a few years, to a monitoring functionality that actually goes on every day. So it's a huge vision that came through. But actually, more can be done, because when you have this camera looking down, you can also execute a urine algorithm on that. And when you have this architecture with the raw data, you can send the raw data of the picture to a third party with that urine algorithm. And then with the same hardware, you get much more functionality. And actually, in this way, when you send your raw data to someone else, they are not afraid of that their IP will get stolen, because their IP is kept in their cloud. They process everything, unlike the classic way where they have to compile their binary algorithm and place it on the device. So they really give their IP and trust the other company much more. These are like huge benefits here.
Great. And now we wanted to go on poll questions we have next.
Go ahead, Tom.
First question is your medical device connected to the cloud today? I don't think I need to read your choices, but they are yes, no, and not applicable. So folks would take a moment to just kind of indicate where you are in this process, and then we've got another poll question immediately following, and then we'll resume the conversation and talk about a little bit more about distributed architecture. So. All right. And then the next question would be, and if you would, is this is great. This would be very helpful for us to know. Will you consider a cloud-native architecture for your solution? Yes, no, I don't know yet, and not available or not applicable. I think we're collecting the data behind us in the secret supercomputer and the Device Talks Tuesday studios, and we'll make that information available to BioT. So let's see if we need any more time. All right. Thanks for taking a minute to answer those questions. All right, so let's move on to our next slide. Got the okay from Matt Boblet, our producer, that we're good to go. So you talked about building a distributed architecture. What do device manufacturers need to consider when doing so? What are the challenges that they need to address to ensure that this architecture fulfills the needs?
Yeah, so while the benefits of a cloud-native medical device are awesome, it's not an easy system to build. We see three main challenges, and we divide them by the life cycle of a device. So first, you need to build it, right? And actually, there is it may take several years to build and launch a cloud-native medical device because, as I explained earlier, remote care brings extensive use cases that must be supported beyond just the medical purpose of the device. Remember all the business operations and stuff like that. Secondly, it may cost a few millions of dollars every year to maintain such a system, and I'll explain why in one of the next slides. And thirdly, the fact that almost all the functionality goes through the cloud. Everything you see converges through the cloud. This means that far more load falls on the backend R&D teams. And this is an operational problem. It is even more important than building the initial product. Let me give you an analogy. In analogy to cloud computing, everybody can buy a server, right? But the operations around this server is the real pain. And that's why we all go cloud and pay AWS like 10 times of the cost of the server over time, of course. And in our case of the medtech industry, everybody can build software, but evolving it with new releases is a pain, especially with the cloud-native device architecture, is a pain that you can get stuck with for 15 years.
Wow. Want me to advance?
Yeah. Just a bit of a drill down to what I mean by extensive use cases to support remote care. So we divided to those blocks of patient outcomes and clinical evidence. Beyond this title, there's the remote patient monitoring, to see all the graphs of all the waveforms and the biomarkers. You want a dashboard for the trends, who is deteriorating now. You want alerts, alerts that trigger, alerts in a nursing station, alerts to get sent as a notification to a mobile app, to an email, SMS, etc. You want to provide a portal for the clinician, something that most devices actually, it's not sufficient to just integrate with an EHR and have the clinician work with the EHR. When they need to drill down to waveforms and stuff like that, they need a specific portal. If you're a therapeutic device, you need to manage therapy schedules, intensity plans, etc., adherence, and more and more and more prompts, etc. You need that even for a basic product. Same goes for business operations. You will need the reimbursement codes. You may have consumables to manage, licenses to manage, and same goes for the device operations. You have now many devices remote. You don't know anything about them unless you monitor them, monitor their health, monitor the quality, by the way, that they send data that is within the ranges that are acceptable. Don't know if you are familiar with the term of technovigilance. Now regulations are coming more and more strict on that. You probably heard about the Philips recall, which is not a software recall, but I'm not sure if you are aware of new research that found that devices with software cause 5 times more adverse events and have 2 times more recalls than non-software devices. And going cloud will probably even make this trend worse. So you have to come up with mitigations to monitor the quality of the devices. You need to support firmware updates usually. Even though most of the software is on the cloud, some must stay on the device, of course, itself. We will have to provide some portals for teams who are not developers but want to get some understanding of devices that are connected or disconnected or other use cases as well. So quite a lot of functionality even for a basic product. That's only the beginning. When you want to maintain those devices, now a lot of attention and money gets drained over that direction. It's of course for all the 15 years of the life cycle of the device. Cyber threats come up all the time. I don't know if you heard of the Log4j incident roughly a year ago, where in a day you had to replace the stack of all your microservices, and that's only one case that got publicity, but that happens all the time. Also, we are in an era where regulations around clouds and medical devices are being formed and changed. I'll talk later about one of those groups and the problem of change control, where actually, when you deploy something on cloud and you think you validated the device, you actually didn't, because Amazon changed their software of their services, which you depend on, a minute after you validate it. So what to do with that? These are regulations that are upcoming. Cloud infrastructures change. Just a few months ago, Google dropped support from the MQTT protocol. which is a huge problem because this is a major protocol in IoT and medical IoT for many use cases like transmitting real-time biomarkers and waveforms. And anybody who is in Google now had a full stack to build because instead of what Google dropped, and so on and so forth, and more challenges coming all the time and costing a lot to maintain. Yeah, so that's not all. Let me refer to the third issue, the pace. After you build that, and now you have a system up and running, let's see what can happen. Let's take some use cases for a few teams, not the backend team, but other teams that need to develop new stuff on the cloud. So for example, say you are the developer of the device and you have some issues and you suspect that maybe it's related to the temperature of the battery of the device. And now you change your firmware and now you can send that somewhere. But in order to really monitor the temperature of the batteries in the field, you will need the backend team to change the API. And then you'll need them, of course, also to store it. And you will need the UI team to add it to the right place in the dashboard. You know, if you want to do that, get in line. You might get this feature in 6 months because they have other things to do. Let's talk about a product manager. Let's say we have an issue with the questionnaires. We send questionnaires to patients to know how they recover using our awesome device. But then they don't respond on the questionnaires. And the product manager would like to change the schedule of the questionnaires. Instead of sending them in the evenings, they want to send it right after the usage. They think they may get a better response, for example. This is, again, a requirement that they will have to ask their team to do. Of course, you know, they're the product managers, they can govern that, but that will come instead of other things. Let alone clinical affairs. Let's say now they understand they need to add another questionnaire question to get new data. Again, they need to ask the backend team to do that through the product manager. Maybe they'll get it in 6 months. And regulatory affairs, for example, they need to know to make sure that only private data is just processed, not stored. And from time to time, there are new, as you know, privacy policies, consents, stuff like that. These are all get translated to requirements that get in line of the backend team. Bottom line, this system gets stuck on very precious resources, and that's not the way to move forward. The way to move forward is that the cloud native system will come with some kind of an administration utility, administration console, some kind of a way to allow those teams who are not developers to configure the system, to adjust it, to change data models, like a content management system, if you like, without having to rely on the backend team all the time. There is another special kind of user, which is very, very, you know, the reason for all of that. It's the data scientists, the people who provide those algorithms that analyzes the raw data and creates those new insights and new biomarkers based on signals that never existed before. So actually, these guys, how do they create their algorithm? It's just, you know, the end result of their work. First, they had to get data from the system. then after they provided an algorithm, it's only version 1. And you know that with data-driven algorithms, they tend to deteriorate over time because of drift problems, for example. So you need to monitor algorithms throughout time. And sometimes you want to test new algorithms. Maybe you had a great algorithm, but its performance was very costly, and now you have a better version, maybe lower layers of networks, of neural networks, but you're not sure about the accuracy, especially in real time, compared to the previous algorithms. You want to easily manage that to be able to run those tests without having to come to the backend team. Hey, please deploy my new algorithm. Hey, please run this algorithm only on these devices, on the 10% of the devices, and run the other algorithms for the 90% of the devices. This creates a lot of friction, and of course, the need to export data in a de-identified way, sometimes tokenized, meaning that you have multiple batches from different times, but they are connected in the sense that you know that this type of data and this bit of data came from the same patient, for example. All those things are things that data scientists need, and when they wait all the time to the backend team, they progress very, very slow. So these guys specifically want to to make sure that they are kept as productive as possible. Okay, so thank you. At the beginning of BioT, for several years, we developed one-off cloud-native devices for medical device companies. And what we felt is that it got a bit boring because 90% of the time, we coded the same requirements. We knew them by heart because previous customer asked for them. So in essence, we were developing the same boilerplate code over and over. And that boilerplate code includes a lot of privacy infrastructures and a lot of, as you see here, access control, cybersecurity, reimbursement infrastructures, remote licensing infrastructures, those data science infrastructures, time series databases, and other databases to store, the various kinds of data. There are a few kinds of data, but in the end of the day, I can say it's biomarkers, telemetry, waveforms, and all sorts of files like imagery, media, video, audio, or binary files. This is roughly it. Maybe I forgot one thing. So it became repetitive after a few customers, and of course, they were all dealing with the same entities of patients and caregivers and devices, healthcare organizations, etc. So bottom line, after 7 years of doing it for medical device companies of all sizes, we built a platform that is this boilerplate and allows developers to focus on what the company really sells and as their unique value. So let me dive a little deeper into the platform. As you understand, as a platform, the whole purpose of that is to solve those three challenges I discussed earlier. First challenge is to be able to launch quickly. So this is done by providing a lot of ready medical device models across all those 4 domains: the device operations, the patient outcomes, the clinical evidence, the business outcome. The way that it works is that it provides APIs and also SDKs to connect devices to it, to allow the devices to send data on one direction and to get commands and other inputs from the cloud, from remote users. The devices can be installed in any settings. It could be a home setting, a clinic setting, hospital setting. And once the data is in, two portals are also coming with BioT. One is an organization portal. This is a portal for clinicians to provide all the remote patient care to the patients. And the other portal is for the manufacturer users, the various teams to monitor devices in the field, to manage licenses and other relevant things to the device. And this whole platform is, of course, coming with all the relevant certificates, both to be deployed commercially in the US and the EU, CE mark, and FDA approvals. Security, of course, is bread and butter, and it is also fully managed platform as a service, meaning that it's also all the maintenance issues that I mentioned, cloud changes, cybersecurity, monitoring everything, disaster recovery plans, all is taken care of, all is covered by the platform. Where the additional challenge, the most acute one, the slowing of pace when you need to evolve the system further is taken care of by the infrastructure on top of which all those ready medical device modules are built on. And I'm talking about the engine of the flexible data modeling, where you can model, an administrator can model the data models that all those device operations, patient outcomes, clinical evidence, business operations, business outcomes, all these are using the data models that are flexible and changeable and manageable by teams who are actually not developers on their own. Product managers can set, for example, scheduling of questionnaires. Clinical affairs can set what are the questions in the questionnaire. Regulatory affairs can say what of the data is PHI and is forbidden to be used by some users according to all sorts of attributes, and which is not. And device developers can use this admin console to add new data points, for example, the status of the battery of the device, including configuring the UI dashboard that shows it to them and enables them to monitor it on the field. And for the group of the developers, the backend team and the data scientists, we provide, we take special care. The whole purpose of BioT is to serve as an infrastructure, much like the experience with databases or AWS cloud, for example, that you can build your own functionality on top. So BioT comes with the ability to inject code via a plugin mechanism that actually changes any kind of flow, be it a device operations flow, patient outcomes flow, clinical evidence, and business outcome. These flows, while they are coming ready from BioT, they can be changed through a plugin that is developed for any kind of language. It could be Python, could be JavaScript, could be C#, anything. Where some of our customers are using these mechanisms to integrate to AJAS, like Athena, for example. And last but not least, our most precious type of user, the data scientist. For them, we provide not just a way to inject code, but a full algorithm operations system to manage all the life cycle. I mentioned earlier to monitor the algorithms, to export data in a mass export way directly to the tools that they use in order to study the data, and of course, deploying inference algorithms and all the life cycle that the data scientists need from the system. Just a bit of a drill down. This is these are all the models, and the effect is, in the end of the day, that actually it takes just 1 day to set up the system, meaning using this administration console to define the data models for remote patient monitoring and all the rest of the models. This is done through drag and drop UI. Don't have enough time in the webinar to do that. But actually, if you go to the Biote website, you have there a button of sign up, and you get your own Biote account, and you can play with that. Biote is an open platform, so everybody can just sign up and see those drag and drops, both of the data model and also of the UX, how those clinician portals are built, the manufacturer portals are built, much like in the way of Wix, if you know this web authoring website builder tool. What's left is to integrate the device, the sensors through the Biote APIs, and any kind of data can be sent, telemetry, imagery, like I mentioned before. And then if you want to build new stuff on top of Biote, then it will take you more than a few days. That will take you, as complex as your algorithm is, but the integration of an algorithm to Biote is very quickly through the plugin mechanism. When you get these slides, there is here a link to the documentation, the open documentation of Biote, to see how all of that gets done. Okay, so moving next, this is where comes the question of build versus buy. The fact that there is a platform doesn't mean that it makes sense to use it, right? So that's why we wrote a white paper about this build versus buy dilemma, which you will get as part of the resources of this webinar. But in a nutshell, what our customers tell us, large and small, is that the resources are constrained, and they have to choose what they focus on. And they want to focus on pure medical benefits, like the things here on the top of the iceberg, breakthrough sensors, algorithms, which is what the clinicians value most. So just like they choose the cloud instead of building their own data center, just like they choose a database instead of developing a database, they chose the platform for cloud-native medical devices to enjoy the offloading of all the privacy, cybersecurity, device management, and all the functionality that we discussed. And also on the bottom part of the iceberg. So let me show you, quickly describe a case study of Natera, one of our customers. They took this approach of using cloud-native medical device platform. They provide a system for remote vital sign monitoring for the entire continuum of care, meaning that the device can be installed in hospitals and also in the homes of people. It is based on a radar device. You see it here, very tiny, like just a few inches. And this radar signal gets transmitted to Biote, and from there to their plugged-in algorithm, where they analyze it and First, they extract biomarkers like heart rate and artifacts, HRV, and the likes. And also, through the radar signal, they also are able to test whether the patient is standing, sitting, lying, which is important to give more insight into the biomarkers that they measure. And also, they use the raw signal in their sleep analysis algorithm. They also, in their case, they're using the manufacturer portal of BioT, but they wanted their own complete UI application, so they built it on top of BioT's API, a custom nursing station app for nurses managing departments with their radar device. On the top, you see the models that they used with BioT, or the patient monitoring models, the alerts, of course, to the nurses and the rest, workflows, when to send alert, to whom to send alert, and more. Remote device configuration from the manufacturer directly to the device, as well as firmware updates from the developers directly to the devices in the field. Also, the algorithms, there are some algorithms that are scheduled, running every period of time, use their scheduler, and also regulatory-wise, they also got some benefits using our design history file and the rest of the documentation. They were able to come up with an FDA approval very, very quickly, actually from just the radar as a working prototype to an entire system that is integrated and approved in 3 months. And last September, they got their 510K clearance. So this is like a technical thing, and actually Shahar, the VP of product, couldn't come today to the webinar, so I have to speak in his name. In essence, materials considerations for using a platform rather than building their own, specifically for choosing BioT, was because they prefer to focus on improving the radar and the algorithms. That's a very complex, both are very complex tasks. And once they knew that they can find a good solution for the non-differentiating part of the system, they took this decision, especially, see, they didn't want to, they want to take all their funds only on their own things. So this is, in a nutshell, the material case study, where just to summarize the key takeaways from this case study and this entire concept of cloud-native medical devices. So the main point of that is that if you want to design for home care, that's roughly the only way to go. You must have a very cost-effective hardware, cost-effective device, and you must consider the fact that that system of the device in the cloud will have to evolve for many, many years to come, and that's the only cost-effective way actually to do that. And the second takeaway is that when you come to design this system, regardless of platform or no platform, don't get to this choking problem. Provide some kind of an administration way, a content management system, however you call it, to enable teams that are not developers by nature to configure, to manage data schemes, data models, and be able to work smoothly without having to wait for developers for any little thing. And of course, all the algorithm operation system, which is like a derivation of what's known as the MLOps today. This is very important to keep the data scientists really, really productive. I think this is roughly it.
Great.
Now I think we will open to questions.
Yeah, we've got a few questions. We've got about 5 minutes. We'll get to as many as we can. I mean, just before we get into them, anything additional that folks need to know before going cloud native, Guy?
I just remind the thing of validated state being relied on cloud vendors, and they change everything. Just say briefly that one of the resources you will get is a paper that we wrote on this complex subject.
Okay, great. First question is regarding HIPAA guidelines. What are the HIPAA guidelines for cloud-connected devices? Any insights there?
Yeah. So first, the guidelines are similar to, I would say, that didn't change from the devices that get connected to cloud. You must protect any kind of PHI, meaning you should make sure that you store it encrypted on all the layers of the stack, meaning that if you want to expose it to a user, you must verify that the user has the access control rights to this PHI. By the way, in our platform model, this is like a shared responsibility model here. We provide a method to mark in the data model which of the attributes of each of the entities, the patients, the device data, etc., which is a PHI, and it's the administrator's responsibility to mark them. But once this is marked, BioT takes care of that and makes sure that only people with the right access control privileges can access that.
Great. And once again, we've got about 3 minutes. We've got a number of questions here. We'll get to as many as we can, but they're all going to BioT, so they'll reach out with any answers. So if you have more questions that we may not have time for, ask away, and we'll make sure you get the answers you need to your questions. A broader question was, what are the needed device specs to be hosted on your platform?
Sorry, go ahead.
What are the needed device specs to be hosted on your platform? I'm just curious, do people...
Yeah, actually, any kind of device from a very, very tiny device with no operating system at all to even large machines, surgical machines that are installed in hospitals and running Windows and the likes. Right. Anything goes. Of course, the device with a smaller footprint will usually use the MQTT protocol, which is very lightweight. They may not be able to use the APIs.
Okay. What are your recommendations for cloud connectivity of a device not designed for a native cloud environment?
First, anyway, cloud connectivity is helpful. If the device is not designed for that, still, it can benefit a lot from functionality like remote patient monitoring, like firmware updates, etc. The same protocols apply. REST APIs to send large files of data, MQTT to send streams of waveforms, for example. The same security guidelines apply, of course. Everything should be encrypted. Usually a mutual authentication as well, meaning the device knows exactly who the cloud is. The cloud knows that this is the device of the manufacturer and not something else. Connectivity principles are the same, and I'll be able to take this on one-on-one to understand the exact use case.
Okay, and final question we'll get in for the presentation. Again, the others will make sure they get over to BioT. How receptive are customer clients to allow for EHR data to be ingested for algorithm application? And is this done product by the developer using the platform, or does BioIT offer the service? I'm sorry, BioT offer the service?
Yes, our purpose is to provide common EHR integration functionality as well, and the platform grows as we go with more and more integrations. And regarding receptiveness, this is still like an uphill battle. It goes one win by win to get the approvals of CIOs to release data.
All right, great. Well, Guy, I appreciate the great job today. You had a lot of information to convey, and I thought it was done in a very understandable and presentable way. So well done.
Thanks a lot.
So thanks to sorry to step on it. Thanks BioT for sponsoring. You can see their information up there if you'd like to reach out to their website. You can follow them on LinkedIn. Of course, again, if you've asked a question that we didn't get to, they will get back to you. And if you have any more before I'm done talking, feel free to plug it in, and I'm sure they'll get back to you there as well. That's a wrap for today's. Thanks, Guy. For today's Device Talks Tuesdays. We'll be back again next week. Very much appreciate your joining us today, and have a great Tuesday afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are, Guy. And take care, everybody.
Today's Wednesday here.